Hi everyone, it's Tess from teachwithtess.com, still saying that. I'm jumping in today because I'm going to introduce you to my wonderful friend, colleague from Wales English and experienced recruiter, Jerry. Many of you may know her because you'll have seen her posts in Facebook groups, but she's been working in recruitment in ESL and beyond for absolutely donkeys. And she's here today just to share some advice on how to find companies that are hiring in this very, very busy period. I'm also just going to step in because obviously this video is being released today, which is the 23rd of August. Things have changed since we recorded that video, since we did that on Wednesday last week. Well, the Wednesday evening is when Wales went pear-shaped. Now, I'm just putting it out there to anyone who's listening. I would be wary of going down the China route. If you're looking for schools, I mean, I say go down the China route. If you're looking for schools, you're probably not going to go down there anyway. But if you're considering going independent, I would really think about getting Chinese students. It may be an easy choice now because you've got lots of parents who are looking for work, but the longevity of it, I'm not sure. And you need to go in there prepared. But I'll do another video on that. That's not this. This is all about how to find schools that are recruiting. So have fun, and here's Jerry. Hi everyone, it's Tess from teachwithtess.com, and I am super pleased to be back again today with Jerry, who's a great friend and colleague of mine. And today we're going to be bringing you some insight from Jerry into this crazy, crazy world that is ESL at the moment. As you know, if you're watching this, things are changing very fast at the moment, and I have had a lot of people, as has Jerry even, reach out to her and me about what they can do to find new work, how they should go about it, which companies are hiring, should I go independent, should I leave ESL? All these questions you are all asking yourselves. We are too, because we're all in this together. So today what I wanted to do is to bring Jerry in, who is a very, very experienced recruiter, both for the ESL world, but also she's worked in recruitment most of her career. So Jerry is going to give us some really useful information about where to look for companies that are still hiring, because many of you may have experienced you're off to apply to a company, they've already filled up their quota, and then the next day they're open again. So it's a really confusing situation. So Jerry's here just to bring her insight and experience in this area. But first of all, I just thought I'd ask Jerry, say hi, Jerry.
Hi, Tess. Hi. Thanks ever so much for inviting me to join you. I feel like I'm on a talent show. But thanks ever so much. I mean, yes, you're right. I've been over, I can't remember how many years now, far too many to remember recruiting, but teaching online for over 15 years. So teaching and recruiting online for over 15 years. And it's never, this is a first for me. I've never had it. Well, none of us have ever experienced this before. So we all feel a little bit like, you know, we've had this big earthquake.
Yeah.
And now we're still getting the rumbles from the earthquake, and it's frightening. It is frightening for a lot of us, you know, whether you're experienced or whether you're inexperienced, we're all in the same position. So hopefully today between us, you know, we can look at some things that might help
people out there. Yeah, absolutely. So because Jerry, maybe just if you just sort of give a bit more background about of your ESL journey, because you set up your own business, Blue Sky English. .com, am I right?
Yes, Blue Sky English. And we were a small group of 10 of us, teachers who were looking primarily then at students we didn't do China very much. We did Russia, Bulgaria, Poland, and the money wasn't great, but the students were there. Yeah. And that's what we're going back to now. It's going to be the same. I feel for me personally, I'm going backwards. Yeah. And you've got to allow yourself that, you know, that fact is that you might have to go backwards. Yeah. Gone are the days really when you can go, I want $25 an hour. That won't be there. That won't be there. So you have choices that you need to make. You either swallow that and deal with it, or you look at alternatives. So
absolutely.
when I was with Blue Sky, we didn't mind, you know, it was, oh gosh, years ago. And that was great money. It was easy money. But now we've all got used to the money that's come from China, especially in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
But that's gone.
And it's gone, hasn't it? It has gone. And you can really see it in all the adverts.
Yeah.
For all these schools that are coming through, you just don't see anything over $20. And that's on the high end.
Yes. And even when you do, and you get through, they'll say, but we're going to start you on 16 and then we'll see how you do and how many lessons you do. So there's a promise of 20, but whether you'll get it,
you may not see it. So Jerry, I know that you are recruiting yourself for several companies, and I know that we talk, because Jerry and I talk a lot, and we have talked about these changing, you know, oh, they're recruiting today.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not recruiting today. They've stopped. Now, for those listening, for those who've chosen, because obviously I'm doing videos on those, for those people who want to go independent, because I'm like you, I'm going backwards. I used to have my own school, and I'm going back to Bright Sparks English. I'm going to set up, I'm in the middle of setting up that little tiny little thing again. So yeah, but for those who want to stay in companies, for those who are looking everywhere, how would you go about finding a company when it is so saturated and so busy with people looking for work?
Okay, well, the first thing to do, it's easier said than done, is don't panic. Okay, don't panic and start looking at what everybody else is doing and thinking, oh my God, I should be applying to those. I should be doing this. Yeah. And then you start flinging out your resume and your intro video and your this and your that. And that's the worst thing you can do, because even though pickings are slim and they're not great, these companies are still picking because they've got so many applicants. Yeah. And if you think one resume and one intro video does all, then it's not going to work for you. You're still going to have to put a little bit of effort, and you're going to have to research. Yeah. My advice is, you know, for instance, let's take, I know we're not naming schools this evening, but we talk about the Marmites. We talk about the Marmites of the of the industry, you know, Camberley, 51 Talk, iTutor. Okay. So iTutor and Camberley are probably going to survive because they've got different fingers in different pies. They've got students all over the world. But you go online and you ask a question about iTutor, about 80% of people, but there are 20% who love it. So you've got to make your own decision, you know. Don't go with what everybody else is saying to you. Oh, don't do Camberley, the money's rubbish, you know, you're worth more than that. Yes, we are, but some of us don't have the option to do anything different.
No. And also, Jerry, because that's a really good point, people don't have the option, but it also depends where you work or live, rather.
Yes, sometimes.
You know, in the UK, it could be nobody's going to be able to survive on a Camberley wage, but if it's a gap stop, if it's something just to fill, just to pay the nice things in life, because you've got the rest of it covered, there's nothing wrong with a school like Camberley, because it's 24 hours a day, isn't it? There's adults, kids, and so for some people it's just absolutely brilliant. And I must admit, I know lots of people who love Camberley because it just fits with them. It's interesting, isn't it? So
they used to have a really bad reputation for the adult side because they weren't monitoring it, were they? And it was a bit, it got a bit risque at points. But I believe they've done a lot of work there. But the kids side, you know, it's good fun, like you said. It's a good stopgap. It will take the pressure off you while you're trying to find the one that you really want to do. But even with these, iTutor, Camberley, you know, take your time with the interview. Don't just think, oh, it's only Camberley, I'll pass that. Not necessarily so. The interviews are slightly different now. They've gone to automated interviews, and for both iTutor and Camberley. So you need to be prepared when you click that button and you start the interview. And maybe we can talk about that as well.
I think that would be helpful. I think it would, because how many schools have had automated interviews in the past? Or is this a very new thing?
There were always a few, Tess, but I've never I haven't come across many. Or if anything, it used to be a little bit automated, where they'd ask you, you know, in 30 seconds, tell us a bit about yourself. So you do that. In 30 seconds, tell us about your teaching experience. And then that would go off for review, and then you would get an interview. But now the interviews are actually part of the automated thing. So you have to be prepared to do a 3, 5, 8 minutes to camera, giving a class to somebody who isn't there. So that's changed. And that's changed, I would think, because these schools don't have the time. So many applicants, it's easier to whiz through in a time that they want to, not, or what time can you interview? Oh no, we don't do that time zone, etc., etc. So it's easier for them too.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Just out of interest, because I've, you know, the most automated thing I had to do with Magic Ears, and that's not automated, you know, is record my interview, or the first part, a demo, and send it in. But for those people who have never done a recorded interview, what would be the best way of preparing something? How much of it can they see in advance? Can they get into most of these schools' questions to prepare?
What you tend to find is the question will come up. So it'll come up, tell us a little bit about yourself in 30 seconds. This will start, and it gives you a countdown sometimes of 10 seconds or 20 seconds. And you talk to camera, and then it will say, are you happy with this response? Do you want to try again? You can try again, but the majority of them will only let you try one more time. So try and get it right the first time, because you don't want to fluff the second time, and then you have to go with that one.
Yeah, but you can't see the questions in advance.
No.
You don't know what they are.
No,
so it's quite hard to prep. You just need to have some basic generic questions.
They're usually, tell us about yourself, tell us about your experience, your teaching style. Some of them will say, this is a scenario. So Julie is not replying to you in class. What would you say to Julie, or what would you do to Julie to get her to respond to you? So they pop up. You can't, you just can't guess what's going to come up. And I did an interview the other day with a company called All Right, just because I wanted to find out what the process was. And at the end of it, after you've done all these, it says, right, now you're going to do a 5-minute to camera. You do a lesson. Oh, will I? Okay. Okay. So, you know, I work for Wales, don't I? So I got my trial stuff. So I just started doing some things and pull and a big, small. They're looking for the basics. Can you do the TPR? Have you got the energy? Have you got 1 or 2 props? You know,
that sort of thing.
You can't prepare. But this is where I go back to what I said before, is don't panic and start going, oh, well, Tess applied to All Right, so I'll apply to All Right. Do your research. Because if you do a little bit of research, don't look at what people are saying, whether they like it, they don't like it. What you're looking for is, what is the interview like? Because you will glean some information from others on that. So it will tell you a little bit, but some of them. And
also, just what suits you. It really does come out. There are so many, and people who post and people who talk about them will only ever talk about their own personal experience. They can't know what other, you know, and it's the same with every single company. Everyone has their fans and their.
I mean, Tess, I joined Wales 2.5 years ago. If I'd have looked at all the reviews, I wouldn't have joined Wales. You know, tight schedule, strict, fines, no time off, this, that, the other. I worked 2.5 years so far. I've never had one fine. I've never had one crossword. I've had a fabulous time. I wish they would keep going, but they're not going to. So, but you know, don't listen to what everybody else, because you are not them. You know, probably they were late to class. They did a no-show. They don't keep good communication. You don't know what people have done or not done.
No, exactly. And just out of interest, because I know, I mean, we've been humming and hawing about this, but rather than naming schools that you know are recruiting at the moment, because by the time people watch this video, they may not be, have you got a list? You may need to think about this. Have you got a list, for instance, of companies that you know have automated interviews, or the ones that you know of already?
But I haven't interviewed with all of them. That's the thing. You have to interview with them. And
No.
I've been slowly working through them, but you know, you'd have to do them all, to be honest, Tess.
Yeah.
My advice to people is, if you do Google search and you do top 10 schools in Korea, top 10 schools in Japan, top 10 in wherever you want to be looking, Romania, because there's Russia, but Russia's, you're not going to get more than $10 an hour, but you'll get $10 an hour. Then you find those top 10 and then you can research them, and there will always be someone somewhere on a forum or on Glassdoor or wherever it might be who will have written about it. So
yeah, it's a good way of finding things out. So basically, at the end of this very, very short thing, top tips to find these schools. Research.
Don't panic. Don't panic. Don't do what everybody else is doing. Do what you want to do and suits you.
And prepare for those interviews. And don't think, I think that's actually very valuable. Some people may think, oh, it's only such and such a school, it's not as good. And I know from my own personal thought, you know, because I was considering, do I want to go and apply for other schools? I've personally made the decision not to, because I'm going to start working with my own students and I have other projects. But for those who do want to carry on working with schools, it's really important to think that even though they may not be as high paying or maybe as good, if you know, if you love the school you're at the moment and you're thinking of applying to these other schools, they're not as good as the one you're teaching for, doesn't mean to say that you don't prepare or you go into confident, does it? I think that's important.
I mean, I'm staying. For now, I'm still staying, and I'm looking for schools that are suitable for me. And in the meantime, I might look for the ones we've just talked about, just to, you know.
Okay, right. Well, that's great. So thanks, Jerry. That's fantastic. Some short, succinct, excellent tips for where to go and look for schools that are not in China.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Lovely.
Jerry.
Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, good luck, everyone.